Hi, everybody. Welcome to Realistic Fiction Part 5. Today, you're going to need your planning sheet, your pieces of writing paper, and of course, something to write with. Now, I want to remind you last time, I was a little stumped. I couldn't figure out how do I begin. I was working on my introduction and I tried out a few different ones. Let's see what you came up with. Here's one example. It all started when Gus and Bob went to the mall. I love how this student labeled Bob and labeled Gus and even labeled the mall. This is very exciting beginning. I love how it just starts out. It all started when Gus and Bob went to the mall. What all started? I have so many questions. I can't wait to read on page after page and find out what happened when Gus and Bob went to the mall. Really good beginning. So here's what I decided to go with for my introduction, my beginning. Gretchen was a sweet girl who loved animals. She never missed a chance to help a stray cat or lost dog find a good home. I decided to begin by describing my character Gretchen. For me, it just made sense. Now, you might have started with action. You might have started with the character. You might have started with the setting. You might have started a whole different way. It's all good. This is just what I decided to go with. Now, there are three important things when you're writing your story that I want you to keep in mind. And I like to think of it as kind of like a race course. Three important parts of every single race. Number one, the beginning, middle, and the end. Your writing should have a clear beginning, a clear middle, and a clear end in order for your reader to understand the story that you're trying to tell. What I like to begin with is telling the story out loud. It could be to a friend, to dad, maybe Uncle Joe, or maybe all by yourself in your bedroom. And as you tell your story out loud, I would like you to hold up a finger for each of the things that happens. In my story, three things are going to happen, three important things. First, Gretchen heard the sound of an animal. I hold up one finger. Next, she comes closer to the sound and realizes it is a hurt bird. So that's the middle of my story, and I hold up two fingers. And then the end of my story is she picks up the hurt bird and gets help. I'll have three fingers held up. Now, your story might have four parts, maybe even five or six. That's okay. This is how I'm writing my story. So, writing the story in the beginning, now this is different from your introduction. I've already introduced my character Gretchen and told you what she's like. This is the beginning of my story. One warm sunny day, Gretchen was playing outside and she heard a strange noise. Peep, peep, caw! It was coming from the area around her fort. That's part one of my story, the beginning. Part two, the middle of my story. She decides to be brave and investigate. She follows the sound and finds a little bluebird lying in the grass under her fort. His wing was broken. He looked sad. Gretchen didn't know what to do. So if you notice, in the middle of my story is where the problem is. That's usually the part of the story where your character needs a solution. Your character is in some kind of trouble. Something happens. That's what makes a story interesting, is when something happens. And usually it's in the middle of your story when something happens that needs to be solved. Okay, here comes my ending. Gretchen scoops up Little Bird gently in her hands and takes her into the house. Mom puts a splint on the bird's wing. Gretchen names it Little Bird, and they become best friends. There's the end of my story. Happy ending. You know I love happy endings. Okay, now it's time to review. Let's make sure we have all the parts of realistic fiction. You have this page in your packet, so let's see if you could check these things off. Number 1, it could really happen. Realistic fiction, remember, is something that really can happen. There are no flying dinosaurs in realistic fiction. There are no dragons breathing fire. It could really happen. Part 2, it has to have a character. Has to have a setting, a problem, a solution, and a clear beginning, middle, and end. That's what we worked on today. So if you could check off all of those parts, then your story is completed for now. Notice I said for now, because when you think you're done, you've just begun. Okay, everybody, get those pencils moving. Your teachers can't wait to see what you come up with.